and we'll start digging in to building custom GPTs in ChatGPT4. And this is something, a topic that I'm pretty excited about. And I was really excited that Divya Apte was digging into this. So Divya, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll get back to the slides and dig into the topic.
All right, cool. Thank you so much, Jan. This is such a great opportunity. Hi, everybody. I'm Divya Apte. I've been in customer-facing roles, including customer success leadership roles, for over 8 years now. I actually started out in software engineering. So about a year and a half ago is when I started using generative AI and ChatGPT for work with my teams. We've built out prompt libraries and other resources using generative AI. But about a couple of months ago is when I started to really work with custom GPTs. And boy, have I learned a lot. And so today I just wanted to take an opportunity to just kind of show you a pretty easy framework if you wanted to get into this world as well, to see what you can actually do with automation.
Awesome. And you know, that's something too, like if anybody is feeling scared about like, oh, this is scary, this is AI, this is really to alleviate those fears, right? Because even though, like if you were going to go and program AI, like in Python or something, yeah, sure, you need to learn how to learn those programming languages. You need to learn about, you know, all kinds of other complex things. But if you think about it, we've been using ChatGPT and other versions that are out there now. There's, you know, lots of different ones out there, Claude and whatever, but we've been using it since, you know, what, over a year and a half. It's been since the October of 22, I guess, is when that came out. And already the way it's taken hold, like already we have the ability to use it, right? This is another way to use it in sort of the next step up. And the whole point is, yes, there's certain ways you need to learn how to use any tool, right? But once you learn those things, like Excel didn't always exist, right? But you know how to use the formulas in Excel, and you know how to learn more formulas if you needed to, right? In the same way, this is a tool that you can use, and it's used for automation, for analysis, for a lot of different things we'll dig into. But just to, like, if you're feeling stressed, you know, let go of some of that stress and just like, let's dive in with sort of a learning approach and a learning attitude here. Okay. Just want to say that as we dive in. Now, some of the things I also want to call attention to is we have a lot of different resources. And besides, in those resources where we have a guide and prompt template that Divya built out, is really amazing. And those links are to, whoops, not that document, but these documents here that we'll be referencing here. So there's a lot of information here that you'll be able to dig into, right? And what we're doing now is introducing it to you so you can feel more comfortable with it and feel like you've got a place to go. And I'm sure that Divya will also volunteer to
Absolutely
to meet with people as well, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so digging in. All right. Do you want to maybe kick things off, Divya, and then I'll,
Sure.
you know me, I'll always add in.
Sure. So the very first thing I wanted to talk to everyone about was really the difference between what you know is a ChatGPT versus what is called a custom GPT. By the way, custom GPTs are only available as a feature in GPT4. So if you have the free version, you unfortunately won't be able to find it. But really the big difference is when you have a prompt or when you're asking ChatGPT for information, it's actually going off into the internet to actually pull the information out for you, right? It's a very general sort of tool that you can use to ask questions, and it'll give you back answers. But with customized GPTs, you can actually be super specific to work with your own data set. And so the questions that you're going to ask the GPT then will be the answers you're going to get back is referencing the knowledge base the documentation, the industry language, and any sort of specific instructions that you want it to take a look at before it actually presents the answers for you. So that's really the difference, is one is more general and the other one is more tailored and customized to your needs.
So especially if there's something that you're going to do on a regular basis, then you might think of building a custom GPT, especially if you might have data that you're going to analyze on a weekly basis, and you wanted to, you know, like basically, it's sort of like if you were going to set up Excel sheets and you were going to have a bunch of feeder Excel sheets, you know, feeding into a set of you know, why can't I think of the word? I just said it earlier too. Formulas that, you know, and you had it like all sort of feeding in. It's sort of like the same sort of idea, right? Where you, if you're doing a custom GPT, it's something that you could change your data set and have it just run each time, right? And analyze it. I'm trying to come up with some corollaries, some analogies that will help you understand and feel more comfortable with it. So hopefully that does. Go ahead, Divya.
Yeah, so this is basically the start of this framework, right? So with anything, any kind of tool that you're working with, you first need to understand what exactly you're using the tool for, right? And so it's the same thing with this GPT.
Well, before we go to number 3, let's just get back to number 2.
Yeah.
The other thing is, think about when you're building a custom GPT, think about it as if you hired somebody who was straight out of college, let's say, this is their first day working ever. You wouldn't necessarily give them a bunch of jargon and, you know, like, oh, hey, yeah, you know, like go down past the old Jones farm where the, you know, Dairy Queen used to be, and, you know, whatever, that's, you know, like all these things that are just sort of insider knowledge, right? You know, because you wouldn't expect them to understand much. And so you want to, in the same respect, you want to think of this GPT as an assistant, but the persona of this assistant is someone who really needs a lot of information, right? And they don't know what approach to take unless you tell them, right? So just really want to point that out. And that's why then you want to think about very specifically, what is it that you want them to do and what result you want, you know, and thinking about that context and even providing some relatable examples that you can give them, which is kind of, when you think about it, what I'm trying to do for you when I'm talking about giving you examples of, you know, Excel worksheets and using formulas, right? In the same way, you want to provide some context and some examples that you would give this assistant persona. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And so to kind of go along with that, you can think of this GPT as your assistant that's available to your customers 24/7, right? So you want it to be able to do the exact same tasks, and the goal should be identical to what you and your teams would be doing if you were available to assist that customer. And so you need to have super clear definitions, maybe give it some clear examples on what it should know that its goal is or its task is, you know, that it needs to carry out with your customer. So that's the very first thing that you need to understand. And then the second thing would be to understand who your target audience is, right? And so this is kind of like the crux of this GPT. So as long as you provide the details of the background, the roles, and the knowledge levels of these customers or this target audience, you'll be able to give it context to where it can give you responses that's very specific to that target audience. And so you can even include industry jargon, vocabulary, anything that a typical target audience would be interacting with. So, you know, you can even tell it, okay, instead of actually going out on the internet and searching for all of this information, maybe just look at my own documents. So you can actually upload your own knowledge base. your own documents and have it just search through that specific knowledge base to provide you the specific answer to that question. So you can really just fine tune it to any use case that you want. But giving it that context to know where to actually go to look for that data is super important.
Okay. And then otherwise, when you build it, just be ready to test it and, modify it, and continue to test it to ensure that it's working in the way that you want it to. And, so that if you've said only use information from these 3 websites, then you may just, check when you run it a few times to see if it's going to other websites or not. That sort of thing, right? Whatever the context might be, you want to be sure to test it and sort of kick the tires on a little bit. So this is kind of the overall. The other thing too is what we're talking about primarily is if you're just building your own private custom GPT, you can publish one to the store. And that gets a little more complicated in terms of other things you might add where you're asking people who are using it for their feedback and things like that. We're not going to go over all of those details tonight, but basically you can think of this just, in terms of if you were just going to use it for your private use. All right. Does that make sense? Anything else?
Thing is about the tone and the interaction style. So you can actually tell the GPT how it should be conversing with your target audience. It could come up with any kind of witty responses, or you can keep it conversational, or maybe it's a GPT that is only providing information to somebody. So you can actually set up that tone. You can also ask it to interact in a particular order, right? Like maybe you can go question, answer, or maybe you want to just ask the customer 3 questions and then just provide 1 answer to those 3 questions. So all of those interactions can actually be written in as an instruction. And yes, as Jan mentioned, I mean, the big thing here is you got to remember that there is actually a limit as far as how many words in that instruction block you can actually provide it. So that's 8,000 words. And so the more you start writing and the more you start testing it to make sure that it's actually giving you the answers that you need, you're basically optimizing it for that particular use case. And so you'll definitely get a lot of insights and feedback once you start giving the link to other people to test out for you, but also continually test it yourself. So you can, make sure that you're within that 8,000 word limit. But really, that's where the use of this GPT comes in, is the more you test, the better it is that it's working for you. So all those people out there that are cranking out GPTs, and there are so many out there right now, they'll come up with like 1 GPT a day. I'm not really sure how much you'll actually get from that GPT, just because it's probably not tested very well.
Right. Just a couple of things I see in the chat that I just want to mention. First of all, Michael Wiley just posted a number of different tones you could suggest that it use. That's lovely. Another thing is Pam had a question about private GPTs and if they're used to keep the data secure from the public. If whatever data you're using in ChatGPT, you should assume that it is being trained on that data. So that is technically not private data. So if you were going to use data that was your customer data, you would want to, instead of having the names of all your customers, maybe just put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of thing, something like that, right? So it's not so much that it's that the data is private. There's you can create a custom GPT for your own personal use versus putting it in the store where other people can use it. Divya, why don't you first, before we get to Trevor's question, why don't you give the example of what you're doing for your nonprofit?
So I actually have a family-operated nonprofit. It's called Pedal Wildlife, and some of the examples that I provided here in these slides are actually some of the instructions that I provided my own GPT. So what I wanted my GPT to do was basically act like a chat box. right? So if someone comes to the website and they want to purchase a product, by the way, this nonprofit, the mission is to educate kids under the age of 10 about Earth and its species. So we actually hand design and hand create a lot of these educational products for kids. And so what we wanted to do was assist in any adult that might come to the website that want to purchase any number of products for a kid that's of a certain age, right? And so these are just some instructions that I provided to it. Unfortunately, the final GPT that I published does not look exactly like this, but you can kind of get the idea. So by the way, so when you come into the GPT page, there are two options at the very top that you'll see. One is called Create, and the other one is called Configure. Create is something that you can use, but that's completely driven by ChatGPT itself. So if you want ChatGPT to use DALL-E to create the image for you and to come up with instructions on its own based on a little bit of info from you, then you can use the create option. But configure is where you really want to be at, right? If you want complete control of your GPT. And so here I just uploaded our image, and then I called it Petal Wildlife Store. And then I gave it a small description that you'll see in the preview pane on the right. And this is kind of where I start putting the instructions down, right? So here, as an example, I just said you're a chat box that is helping an adult who wants to purchase wildlife-themed toys, etc. The adult wants the products to be educational, fun, colorful. The product suggestions that you provide should honor any restrictions specified by the user, such as age of the child, etc. The desired outcome is a list of 5 products that meets the user's restrictions. And further below is where I'm actually giving it our website URL. And anyway, so that's kind of like your starter, right? So I'm actually training this GPT to act like a chat box. And I'm telling it who the target audience is and what is it that they might be expecting and what the results should be, that is display X number of products, right? And then right below that are the conversation starters. So this is where people can actually click on these various CTAs on the right. They can, find out what, about us, support us, and then there's the shop where they can actually start looking at products. And then knowledge is where you would upload any sort of file, right? So in my case, in my GPT, when they select shop, it's going to ask them questions like, hey, what is the age of your child? And so let's say you say 7. And then it'll say, okay, cool. What product are you looking for? And then it'll list options for different products. And then under knowledge is where I've actually uploaded an Excel file that's got all the products that we sell. And what it'll do is actually go through that spreadsheet to try to match the age and then the product. And then it's going to give you the product name. And then it'll say, hey, if you want to purchase this, then go to the website, and it'll provide them a link to the website, right? So all of this is really being controlled by the knowledge, by the spreadsheet that I've uploaded, including the instructions. So it's not going off to the internet to try to find products that it thinks might match. I'm telling it, hey, just stick with the website that I'm providing. And
so this is a type of task that you could have a bot do, right? And so in this case, this is now, are you putting this in the store? You're not putting it in the store necessarily, right? Because you're just using it on your website.
No, actually, this is in the store. Like I
It
want
is in the
people to
store.
actually, yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't, like I said, look exactly like this anymore, because after,
Okay.
All right, multiple iterations, it looks a little different.
So it's basically then it would be used as a chat bot for somebody else's store.
That's right.
So if you have a store or a nonprofit, something that you're selling, you could then use this chat bot that Divya has built, and you would then modify it slightly, in terms of what you would need to put in for instructions, but otherwise you could use it.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
Trevor, you have a question? Or maybe,
Yes.
oh, there we go. Yeah.
when it comes to the data and the privacy, I'm curious how people are handling that. Like, I know there is now enterprise versions of these things, and I know this is a
Sure.
topic we've to time and
Yeah.
time again. I'm curious because, like, from Divya's point, since she said that they use it for their organization, like, do you guys just sort of omit customer data, or do you only restrict yourselves to the version of these tools that specifically states that it won't train itself on your data?
Well, so if you think about it, Trevor, sorry to interrupt you, Divya, because I know you'll respond too. But if you think about it, what Divya is using is public data, right? It's the products that you can purchase on our website and those prices, right? So that's an example where it's okay for it to incorporate that data, right? You don't need the privacy. There might be other situations though, where what you're building a custom GPT for might be using private data, and that's where then you would want to mask some of that private data so that it can't be recognizable.
Yeah. I was just going to add to that and say that, I mean, right now, custom GPTs, I mean, this feature has been available on OpenAI for about 3 months now. So it's really brand new, right? And to be honest, I mean, is it reliable 100% of the time? The answer is no. But it is getting there. Having said that, when it comes to security, same thing. I mean, I actually have instructions in there telling it to not share my instruction block with anybody, even if they're asking for it, right? So do I want to put any sort of proprietary data on there? Probably not. But at the same time, you can actually have instruction blocks for security in there where you're limiting access to certain parts of the data to the GPT, right? So if you're not comfortable sharing everything, don't, but you can actually add instructions there to limit the access. But definitely get, the okay from the leadership team, because I do know that there are a lot of companies there that are using GPTs pretty heavily. And I'm sure that they're, uploading a lot of their own information, but I'm sure they have security behind the scenes for that.
And that's actually one of the points in here that we talk about in here too, is things about including security and privacy and some things around that and how you give instructions around that. So we have, this is kind of like the template, like going through kind of what questions you might ask as you're filling it out. And then here is another example where it's not so much of a template, even though it's described as one, but it's has more. Or is this the one that was the template and the other one was a description? I think the other one, oh yeah, the other one was, yeah, this one is the template, and like where you sort of fill in certain things, and then the other one is kind of the specific guide. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Jay.
Yeah, thanks, Jan. Divya, a quick question from someone who does not use yet ChatGPT on the regular. When you create a custom GPT, does it appear in my dashboard or like as soon as I log in, or how do I access it once I've created it?
Yeah, so if you go bottom left is where you have your login. So when you click on your name, it'll actually say My GPTs.
Oh, cool.
So when you
Okay.
click on that is where you'll get basically like a little, like a screen that'll list all your GPTs, but that's where you can also create a brand new one. And then on the left-hand pane is where you can actually go search for other GPTs as well.
Cool. And one very quick corollary, when you were mentioning earlier about testing the configuration to make sure that the algorithm is doing what you want it to do, how do you know when it's not? Like if you've asked the algorithm to notice patterns, how do you know that one of the patterns is incorrect or like not accurate?
Yeah, so that's a great question, right? So instead of making 5 different changes all at once, try to just make one change at a time, and then you can go into your preview mode and test that out, right?
Oh,
and anytime there's an error, so let's say that it's not able to open my spreadsheet for some reason, it will actually give you an error message. It'll tell you why exactly it couldn't open it. And then if you click on that error message, there's a small snippet of Python code that it'll display, and it'll tell you, oh, this is where,
Oh, okay.
mistake
Something
is, so
broke.
go fix it. Yeah. So it's pretty descriptive. You can learn a lot from that.
Okay.
And there's already somebody in the community that shared their custom GPT that will compare your resume against a job description. But you may want to just practice building something like that anyway, just so you can build those skills, right? And so if you look in the AI and CS channel in Slack, you'll see that that was posted not too long ago.
Yep.
Randall, did you have a question?
Well, no, I think I figured out, because you can't get the links when you download the presentations. You probably need to go to the actual to the actual what do you call it, the site, and probably get them there, because I think once you download it, the links don't
The
work.
links for what do you mean? I'm sorry.
When you on page 7, I think you have the links to those testing protocols that you said that
Yeah,
you
the
can't
guide
click
and
on
the
the
prompt. You can't
Yeah.
download them?
when you download the links don't work, at least on my end they don't.
Oh,
But maybe I'm doing something wrong.
I don't know, but if that's true, we don't want that to be the case. It says anyone with a link viewer, copy link. We'll put it in the chat right now. And make certain, where is the chat? Oh, there's the chat. And so this one is for the guide. And then, all right, and then this one is for the template. We'll have to check on that. And then the template is here. Okay, definitely want to be sure that everybody has access to those. Okay, so any oh, Christine and Ariel, I know it's just coming back in. I know you've also built some custom GPTs, so want to hear from you. Oh, you haven't? Oh, I thought you had. Oh, okay, Christine. I thought that's what you were showing over in the chat, that you had.
No, it's just
your-
showing the location, but
Oh.
I am getting ready to do that next week. So
Okay, good. All right.
I'll post what I find in the channel on Slack.
Great, great. And we'll answer Kimberly's question next, but Ariel, after that, if there's any sort of insights you want to share before we sort of dig in. But things like when you're gathering a bunch of data, for QBRs or something like that. Oh yeah, and can someone post all the links to the slides and everything again? Like anything that, you have a changing source of data, but you want to have it, create something for you on a regular basis. There are ways in which you can, build slides and do analytics and have it build graphs. And so if you're going to do like a multi-step process, these kinds of things can be built using the custom GPTs. Not saying that that would be your very first thing you would do. You might first just have it build a graph, or have it first, give you analysis, do it in steps and stages. But you can get to the place where then what you've done is you can set up something where you can click a button and just have it, produce something that would, otherwise take you an hour every time you're going to do it. Right. Kimberly, what were some of your thoughts or questions?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of clarify. I have kind of an idea, but I guess I'm not totally sure if this type of thing would be an actual custom GPT, or if it would just be like a conversation thread in ChatGPT, if that makes sense. Because I had this thought of like your mom, right? Like always sort of like, at least a lot of moms, not every mom, but a lot of moms, like they know your strengths, right? Or like a really encouraging coach, like they're familiar with your bodies of like a work, like they have a sense of your strengths. And so I had this thought of like almost like having a GPT that would act like the regular ChatGPT, where you could ask it like, oh, help give me some ideas for this, or what do you think of this? But that somehow it would always add like an affirming, like it would answer it with the angle of knowing your strengths, and being like, oh, here's these ideas, And that relates really great to your like strategic thinking strength, or like, oh, that might relate really well to that project you used to do. I mean, maybe I'm just dreaming.
Well, so there
But is
is,
that
there
like
is
a, you know what I
actually,
mean?
well, I don't know if, maybe, but there is a platform called PI.ai that
Oh, yeah.
is
Looking
meant
at that
to sort of do some of that coaching and that sort of thing, right? So there's certainly some things out there. But again, if you want to build a GPT that will not only analyze it, but then give you some sort of kudos at the end, why not? Like, why not? Because, any opportunity to build up some skills. I also have in here, there's a webinar I'm doing next week about AI in CS and CX. So I have a link for that. There's a lot of different communities and resources, different people to follow, books, and then also links to the templates that, of course, will need to be sure work, but yeah. So that's kind of the overview. Unless and we have some, basically we wanted to just give some time for you in the breakout rooms for you to discuss what kinds of things you might build, and for personal use or for your business use. But Ariel, did you want to, before we head out to our breakouts, was there anything you wanted to share in terms of your experience? I think you're back in here.
Yeah, sorry, I had to transition to my car. Can you hear me okay, Jan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I echo everything that Divya shared this afternoon. And I think one key thing is to constantly test and look at various use cases for whatever your assistant is trying to do. So in the example of the GPT that I built on creating customer journey maps, I was taking on various customer success personas, and then even was very explicit about certain industries to see if the GPT itself can actually interpret specific industry nuances, whether it's financial services, retail, and it does in the context of this particular, assistant, because this information is widely available. So keep that in mind when you're building a custom GPT. Is this information widely known or available out there in the web? And if it is, apply some constraints and give some guidelines. And I always default to using a professional and considerate tone. You obviously don't want your GPT to be rude or anything like that. So be that explicit in terms of how you want that assistant to interact with the user.
Or like if you want to do something where it has a casual, comedic tone, like you can put that in, right? Like it depends
exactly.
on what type of tone do you want to do, just be specific and proactive in telling it, what it wants to do, right? Or what you want it to do. But just, that's one of the things to consider and think about. All right.
Yeah, you can also play. You can pretty much play with that too. I mean, if for those of you that watch the Grammys, maybe I could play around with this GPT and give it a Trevor Noah persona, right? As a customer success leader, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, sure. But, so, most of all, though, want to just give you some thoughts about how to make it approachable, to give it a try, because these are going to be critical skills to understand. And it's when it's just getting started, it's only 3 months out there. This is the best time to use it, right? This is when it's still, the bare bones tool, right? And all of the elements are there. And so you'll if you take the time to learn how to use it now, then you will be way better off than say a year from now. So I just want to encourage you. So I'm going to go ahead and do the breakout groups, set up the breakout groups now. Well, so tell us about it. What came up?
We learned about Perplexity AI. What was the one, Emma, you said to us, the last one you told us?
I also use Agent GTP.
Agent GPT.
Agent GPT, is that then agentgpt.com.ai.
Let me look it up.
All right.
Maybe you tell them what it does, Emma, because I thought that was pretty cool.
It's a conversation. So instead of keep prompting, it will ask itself questions. So it'll keep researching.
Interesting. All
Mhm.
right.
Okay.
So Agent GPT, cool.
Can we put a list of the ones that we come up with on the document?
Yeah, and you know, another place we can add it to the document, and then we can also put it in the CS and AI channel too.
Cool.
But since that goes away in 90 days, I'll be sure to add it to the slide. But yeah, Emma, you're in the Slack channel, right? Yeah, maybe go and put that over in the AI and CS channel.
Cool.
What other things came up? What is this? Michael Wiley, intro courses via the Neuron and Udemy. Any particular ones you want to share?
They were just intro courses where it taught you the basic framework and the tones and so forth. Can't remember specifically which one it was. What was? Oh, so intro to ChatGPT. As simple as that.
Nice, nice. That was on Udemy, or maybe I'm pronouncing it Udemy correct. Okay.
Yeah. I'm
All
with
right.
you.
And what is the Neuron? Do you know?
Yeah, it's a great it's a newsletter specifically that I get, but they have other things as intro courses, but it's all about AI.
Oh, cool. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely put information about that over in the CS and AI channel too.
Okay.
Are you in the Slack channel?
Yeah, I just joined.
Yay. Welcome. All right. Welcome to the community. What else
Thank
came up when you were in your breakouts?
So I just wanted to mention a couple of things, right? So there's actually free courses on generative AI and LLMs and machine learning through Google Cloud. So if you just go into
Oh.
Google Cloud and search up, yeah, it's super
MIT
easy
too.
to go through all these lessons. It's really beautifully done as far as like the slides and the videos and all of that is concerned. So something for you guys to check out. The other thing is I mentioned this to Jan, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it in this session. It's a little on the advanced side, but there are now integrations that are available through Zapier that you can actually integrate into your GPTs. So if you, let's say, have any Google Slides or some sort of doc in your own drive, Google Drive, there's actually a Zapier integration that you can put in your GPT, so it can actually go into your drive and pull out information to display, etc. So
Awesome.
if there's any interest in that, I can do another session at another time. But
and definitely the Google Cloud courses, if you can put that over in the AI and CS channel, and then eventually we can add that to the slides. And I was going to say too is now I can't remember. What were you going to say, Christine?
There's a couple of sites that I use for research on different things having to do with AI. I'll just pop them over in the AI channel so that everybody can get to them. But TLDR does a newsletter every day and drops it off with 4 different up and coming things to think about. Some of them are crazy advanced. It's like MIT studies. And some days I look at that and go, no, not today. Other times I look, oh yay, cool, geeky. But other days I look at it and go, I don't want to have to look too many things up, so I'm not going to read it. But there's that, and MIT does free courses too on AI.
Oh, great. Have you run across any that you think are good yet?
They've got the list is really long, and it keeps updating and changing as the instructors time out from some of them. I haven't run up against one that was bad.
Great. Good to know. And so I remember what I was going to say. If you have the paid ChatGPT, there's a beta now that might pop up for you, which is that you can add in and use the custom GPTs from the store. So if you've gone through the store and you've seen some that you want to use, you can add that in. You can there's a way for you to reference it. and use it as you're, going through and doing your own request. So, there's things like that you can do if you haven't, gone in and built your own yet, right? Kathy.
I remembered to unmute myself. Are there any GPT, any AI things we can use that are updated or current, that somehow keep current on things that you don't have to figure out when their information is most recent as of?
Like, you mean like Bing or Perplexity or
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely. And even now when you're using ChatGPT, if you're using the paid version, you can ask it to incorporate current information and it will go out to the internet now. So,
okay.
Yeah.
But you have to have the paid version. Okay.
And Sherry, if you go over, when I was showing earlier in our Slack, and I was going over and I did the down arrow here. I'll just show you really quick before we finish up today. Over in the Slack. Whoops. Now I've got this all covering it. So let me go. So if you go to channels, you do the down arrow. If you don't have a channel, you click on it and you can add it here. I have them all, so it's just going to bring up something like our pets, kids and vacations. If you haven't seen that one, that's one of my favorite channels. But you can also see here, there's AI and CS. So be sure to go through and look at all the channels there that you might want to add. If there's 2 or more people from an area, you can have your own geo area. So just so you know, if you don't see your geo area, just put over in the general, hey, anybody from Timbuktu here. If you get one other person from Timbuktu, boom, you've got geo-Timbuktu. All right. Any other things before we close it out tonight? Are you feeling a little better? Like this is a little more approachable? Maybe? Up, down, maybe. Where am I feeling? Michael's in it. Kathy's feeling similar. Did it feel a little less mysterious? Maybe. Do you feel like maybe now you've got something that can help walk you through it a little bit?
For sure.
Maybe. Yeah. Good. And if nothing else, this is going to, by digging into this is going to make any of the prompts that you're doing better, right? Because now you're going to think about, oh, I should add something about the tone. I should add something about the context. I should think, I should remember that this GPT is just an assistant, doesn't know me, doesn't know my world. I need to give it a little more context. So if nothing else, this will help you get better information from when you're doing your prompts, just regular, without having to go and build a custom GPT, okay? And anything you do on this front, anything you do is going to help you in your career, whether you're job searching or currently in a role. This is really good stuff to get used to doing. It's uncomfortable. It's hard when you're uncomfortable, right? Give it a try. All right. Next week, we're going to start on a series of 4 sessions all around post-sales revenue, how it's similar to sales, how it's different. So I'll be presenting next week. Then we've got Bob London joining us. We've got Nir Kalish joining us, and someone you don't know, but Erica Farber Anderson, who I've known for a long time. She is amazing at negotiations, and we'll do a session about negotiations that's either March 5th or 6th, and I'll get back to you on that. And I should have used my time to look up the calendar, huh? All right, we good? You feeling good? You ready? You gonna take over the world? All right. All right. I will see you in Slack. I will see you in LinkedIn. I will see you next week, I hope. All right. See you soon. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Success Hour, formerly known as CS Office Hours. We regularly put out new content, so to be the first to know, like this episode, tap that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you soon.